All right, on to the footy.
Before we get onto the suffering part, we did have a win at the Kennesaw Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And it was a rough first half, that's for sure.
Well, so we had all of these, predictions going, and I think, I predicted correctly that he was going to go with a completely changed lineup, and he did.
Right, he did. Yeah, we saw some staples in there. I think we had Gregerson start that game.
Gregerson and Dax McCarty, although he hasn't really been a starter, but Gregerson was the only starter who started.
And Hernandez started as the captain, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And God bless Dean Gregerson, proceeded to limp off 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
No.
But now the interesting thing is he looked like he was limping off after sort of a challenge, and then they went off and they were doing the concussion protocol on him. And then they said that he's in the concussion protocol, which I don't want to say is better, but it's better because it's not at least the knee injury and the meniscus that he had.
Right.
I see. Now, this is where I think the rub is. I think we're learning that players, no matter what, will put their hands on their head, which is what he did. I saw him land on his knee funny on that play.
But they said then even for the weekend game against DC that he was still in the concussion protocol. That was published.
Yeah, that's code
you
for
think you're still
that's
lying?
code for his meniscus isn't right. I mean,
okay.
I am being really,
certainly if he got hit in the head, I didn't see it. It wasn't part of the play. I don't know.
Yeah, and I certainly did see him come down funny on his knee, which he had just had a meniscus tweak to. I think this is going to be a real problem in MLS with the new 2-minute
conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory at this point. I think you saw it with Miles Robinson in the Cincinnati
But he didn't
game.
have to do that in the game. Why can't he just?
Because it gives you an option. If let's say he actually is like, no, guys, my knee's okay. You put him right back on the field because he's like, concussion protocol doesn't warrant the 2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Unless I'm wrong there. If y'all comment, if you're listening in.
One question, do you know whether you have to, so if a guy is in the concussion protocol and you have to sub him, does that count as a substitution window?
It also doesn't count as a substitution window.
Yeah.
So there's two advantages. That's
right.
the other point I forgot to make.
All right.
So I think
when you sub in the first 5 minutes, that's a huge advantage if you don't use a substitution
regardless, there's one advantage, if not two advantage. And so, yes, when they subbed, it didn't get counted as one of the regular subs.
That's awfully cynical of you, Mike Adams.
I mean,
you're probably right.
I'm about to say, if we were playing in this time, we would be grabbing our heads as well.
Mikey Dobbs grabs his head anyway, even while he's podcasting.
100%. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a directive.
Fact, it's probable that he's in the concussion protocol right now.
Yeah. It wouldn't even have to be a directive from the coach. If you're a player and you knew that was going to give your team advantage and they make the rules, then, they're there to be, unless it's like, unless you're doping or something like that. I mean, you're just bending the rules.
Okay. I thought it was really good because it wasn't his knee, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to go back and look. We didn't come with our strongest lineup out of the gates. It was a mixed bag.
Yep.
And it basically went exactly as I described it to Carmen. And Carmen was like, yeah, I think it's going to be that. It kind of was that. It was a very mixed bag of, sure, we dominated possession. We had more chances, yet there was a moment where, just based on poor refereeing, Dave, there was a clear penalty that the ref did not award
in the
Charlotte
first
Independence.
Half. Yeah, so again, on this play, Hernandez is playing left back, and he was super pinching in. Does this remind you of something? And they play out wide. He allows the guy to run at him. And then everybody says, which is true, he made a terrible lunge at it, right? And it should have been an absolute penalty kick. They called a foul, but they called it outside the box. It was clearly inside the box. Yeah. And, people are going to say Hernandez is a terrible defender, and it was a terrible defensive play. Yeah. But as soon as you allow a guy to run at you like that, you're in trouble, no matter who you are. I don't care if you're Maldini, right? You're in big trouble if the guy's running at you. So, yeah, it was terrible. We should have been down 1-0. Yeah. We were not. We survived.
We survived the first half is all you really can say because, at the end of the day, we could have been easily down 1-0 at halftime.
We really had one good chance, I think, in the first half. We looked awful in the first half, first of all.
Yeah.
But we only had one good play in the first half. Brennan put in a beautiful cross to Gordon, who was wide open at the penalty spot, right? And he tried to shoot it with his left foot, which is a stronger foot. He's left-footed, and he really should have hit it with his right. Anyway, he hit a weak shot right at the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It was pretty poor.
It was.
You got to do better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even test the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper just picked it up. Yeah.
So we go in at halftime.
And Firmino actually scuffed one in the first half off a corner. It was a little bit hard. It was a bouncing, but he really didn't do well on it. I thought the only thing that looked good in the first half was maybe Luke Brennan. Like, almost everything good was coming from him the whole game, really. Now, some people have been calling for him to play for the full side. I didn't see, despite the fact that I thought he was terrific, I didn't see anything that looked like he was going to light it up at the MLS level.
No.
I mean, he's tricky with the ball at his feet, but he's not big. He's not fast. He's not. He didn't seem overly tricky. He seems smart on the ball.
We also saw Josh Cohen for the first time in goal.
Correct.
What did you think?
Yeah, what y'all think?
Well, he didn't really have to do that much.
Right.
He made one horrible play. Ball was shot right at him, and he spilt it right across the middle of the box, which was terrible.
Okay.
Fortunately, there was nobody there.
Right.
He made one absolutely terrific play on a corner. He came out and just dominated in the air with a punch, which I thought was terrific. We haven't seen that from a goalkeeper in Atlanta.
And you were saying, you texted me. I said, doesn't he look short? I looked him up online. He's not that short. He's 6'1". At least maybe that means he's just over 6 feet.
Yeah,
6 feet.
6'1" with the hair.
But yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of starting goalkeepers in professional soccer, the answer is yes, he is short. I think when we had the Rios Novos days, we talked a lot about height. We looked that up. Like the average professional goalkeeper is 6'2" or taller.
Yes.
So again, those inches, add up. But he looked good.
He looks quick.
Yeah.
And it's definitely quick. As a shot stopper, really quick.
Okay.
And I give him a pass on that horrible rebound.
Yeah.
It was an awkward bounce, and I feel like, he hasn't played, consistent. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who played Champions League soccer. So yeah, I think we can trust
in the group stage, no less. When he was in Israel, they got to the group stage with like Paris Saint-Germain and Juventus, and then his Israeli side. So he's played against real teams.
Okay, very cool.
All right.
Okay, second half. Much better.
Did we make those subs at the halftime or
no?
The 60th minute?
Yeah, we scored first.
Okay.
So the first goal, Dax McCarty plays a beautiful ball out to Brennan. He plays a simple overlapping ball to Edwards, and then overlapping back, and he just pulls it back towards the top of the 18 for Firmino, and does a beautiful job just putting it back where it came from, slotted it home.
Yep.
Real nice.
Yeah.
Now, so Firmino is going to go on. We'll talk about the second goal in a minute to score a brace. And I think a lot of people are like, come on, that's what we've been talking about. Shouldn't he get time? I mean, he did well on the two finishes. I thought
for who though? Like who would you take off to put Firmino?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. But the question is whether he's certainly not going to replace Gigi. But the question is whether he should be the primary backup over TRA or over Rios.
Rios certainly seems like he's earning the right to be.
Well, Rios scores in this game too. I have not actually, after initial look at Rios, where I was like, okay, maybe he's going to be good. I've not been so impressed by Rios. I think he's not great.
As far as our backups lately, I don't know that he's great.
I'd like to see Tiare back again, but he's hurt.
Right.
He looked really good this year. He looked like a wild guy last year, but this year he looked really good. So in the early things, and that I thought, we finally have a really good backup, maybe. Yeah. And then he got hurt. So I don't know. But anyway, so the thing about Firmino is I was watching him in the U.S. Open Cup, and it's a little hard on the horrible coverage that we have off the live stream, but because I wasn't in Kennesaw. His movement, and that was true when he came up for the Atlanta United a couple of times. His movement's not great.
So can you describe that for the listeners, like how you're judging his movement?
Well, the really, really good strikers are constantly shifting before the ball is coming and, drifting into good spaces and then try to get it. And sometimes they don't play it to them when they're trying to make a through run, and then they'll kind of circle back and then they're going again. And there's a lot of little darting movements, right? And he seems to be in the build up. he seems to be good in the box. Like he looks like he could finish. Right. In the box, he looks like legit. But in the buildup, he doesn't seem to be darting and moving around.
He's not torturing defenders with little pump fakes.
No.
And
it's not the kind of guy you're like, oh God, do I gotta play against him?
Yeah, you got to sneak around.
Now that's all coachable, and he could get better. He's still only like 23 or something.
I don't know that's more. That's kind of an innate kind of talent.
Yeah, some people innately have it,
and
but it's also coachable.
It comes a little later in your game too. Sometimes as a striker, you either kind of have that like drive and kind of that movement comes from just always wanting to be like secretly, torturing that back line.
Right.
Erling Haaland's like the ultimate example of torturing the back line. I mean, just because he's a physical specimen. But again, Gigi too is pretty damn good at that too.
Gigi's constantly moving, probing.
Yeah.
Doing stuff.
And when he can't torture the back line with those little movements as you described, he will drop back. And
he really
torture
drops
somebody in the midfield.
Holds the ball up, and I haven't seen that for Firmino either. Like I haven't really seen him dropping in, being a target, finding an outlet. Like,
So the second goal, Dave, from Firmino, as you mentioned, was his brace. I think that was the one where Wiley gets subbed in, I guess, and maybe I'm jumping your notes there, but Wiley was in. He was actually subbed in as a forward on the left side.
Yeah, so they brought in Lennon and Wiley, and we thought, okay, they're killing off the game with the two outside backs. But it turned out, so Lennon did go to right back. Yeah. But Wiley did not come in as a left back. He came in as a left forward.
Which, after you texted that to me, because I was like, I don't really.
Gordon.
I was like, I don't know that, doing the same old, Lennon, Wiley, sit back in the fullback in this particular game was the best sub. But once I learned that Wiley was going to be used as an attacker on the forward position, that actually gave me a little hope that Pineda was at least mixing some things up.
Yeah.
And clearly it worked out of the gates there. Wiley gets down to the end line, does a really nice cutback. Firmino comes in stride and hits it far.
The interesting thing on that second goal, nobody's going to give him any credit, and probably nobody even saw it. So Dax McCarty ran onto the ball, and there was a guy right in front of him, and he faked it and dummied it.
One that was going to Wiley?
No, that went to Firmino. He dummied it right before Firmino scored. What a play. I mean, an absolute stunning play. And that threw off everything. It threw off the goalkeeper, threw off the defender, and Firmino did a good job finishing
So is that when Wiley cut it back? Because it was kind of a slow cut. I think you're saying I missed that. The Dax had like a little bit of a dummy step over or something.
Step over.
Just caught everybody
right through his legs at the last second. Real nice.
Right. Very nice.
Yeah, real pretty. Fancy.
All right. And I don't remember the third goal. Was that
well, so the interesting thing, so for all those people out there like super Firmino, and I really, again, who's going to criticize? He scores 2 goals. He's great, whatever. He's couple terrific finishes.
Sounds like you are, Dave.
Well, one thing I'll say is that he didn't torture the Charlotte defense. And you're like, okay, whatever, who knows? Like maybe the defense is really good. So Xande Silva comes in the game. And he starts going around their backs like they're cones. Yeah. Right. I mean, he was torturing these defenders. Like, and it made me feel like, now granted they were a little tired and he comes on late, so that's an advantage. But he made it look like, that was my little downgrade of Firmino, because Xande Silva looks so much better than him against those defenders. Right. He just went around, and the second goal, he literally got the ball. I literally thought the guy was maybe a cone. Like he never moved. He just made a shimmy around, was gone. And the guy was like, where'd he go? Yeah. And he went to the end line. He crossed it. Rio smashed it home. Yeah. Right. Okay. Nice goal. Really nice goal. But Xande Silva got in there and he just went by the back line.
I noticed that right
every
away.
time. He was like, bye-bye.
Okay. Got it.
So, so, that made me feel like the second team that we put on for that game wasn't that great. Yep.
All right. Well, they all mentioned a lot of names that I didn't even recognize, like Edwards and
these are all Atlanta United 2s.
Okay, and Peyton Plays, who is on the chat, said Morales.
The center back. Yeah, okay. So he played once. We've had so many center back injuries, right? So he played, and he looked good in this game.
He looked good in the previous game. He missed the hero moment to
he could have won it. Yeah, the MLS game.
But other than that, I thought he had
he came forward really late in the game. Was it a corner or just in live crowd? Anyway, he had a chance to head it in, and he missed by about 6 inches.
Oh.
But
I mean, he should have headed it in.
He was so close,
wide
you
open,
have
but
to
it was
put
a
that on
great
frame.
run.
Yeah.
It was a great run, and you're like, you have a trouble criticizing the center back for missing a goal in the,
you could see his face. I felt for him because he's a young kid. I was like, oh.
One thing one thing I feel about him early on, and we haven't seen much of him, so it's hard to say, but he's really aggressive, right? So he's trying to win the ball all the time, and he's very physical. He's big, dude, and he's very physical. So I like that front foot. Yeah. I didn't get the impression that he was reading the game that well. But again, I remember I felt that way about Noah Cobb too. And as Noah Cobb has settled a little bit, he looks like he's reading it a lot more. It's very hard to come in as a new kid and be like, I'm going to read the game perfectly in my first game, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.